you know that it's going to be hard while you're starting a new thing and running the current thing. You know that, right? And you have to know that, but you also have to know that the reason you're doing it is so it won't be hard forever.
Hello.
Hello.
Happy day.
I was like,
I forgot
what day is
it
it? I had like a mini panic attack.
Happy, what day is it again? Wednesday.
Man. Yes.
It's Wednesday.
Yes.
Happy Wednesday. We have a good one for you all today. This is going to apply to those of you who already have an existing client base. So maybe you're in a clinical practice, maybe you have already like an existing one-to-one client base. And so today's daily cue was from Irene, and she asks how to manage a schedule of traditional private practice clients while transitioning to a new coaching client focus with the Signature Online program.
Such a good question.
It is, because we have a lot of practitioners and coaches in the 10K online success system who either want to maintain their clinical, quote unquote, as Irene would say, traditional practice to a degree, or we have practitioners and coaches who are like, get me online as fast as humanly possible. I'm out.
I want to hit the road. No more.
I'm out. And we have, I'm just thinking of a couple different practitioners who were licensed and regulated who even changed their model slightly because they now have a signature online program and they dramatically raised their one-to-one sort of private practice rates where they're charging $3,000, $5,000 to work with them. And then they have the ability at scale to be able to help those, like a lot of people. And they sort of set it up that way. And so if you are in that boat, if you are someone who has a traditional practice, whether you're licensed, regulated, you're a therapist, you're a social worker, you're a nurse practitioner, you're like a diabetes educator, like a dietitian, right?
All of the things.
Like an art therapist.
Yep.
I can't think of, I don't even know.
Anything.
Dental hygienist, right? Like any sort of practitioner or coach who works one-on-one, it really is challenging to manage your existing practice while starting something new. And I know how challenging it is because I did it. I did it for almost 3 years. So for those that don't know, I started off as a registered holistic nutritionist. Before that, I was a personal trainer and I had a nutrition practice. I had a really successful nutrition practice. My signature program called Wow Weight Loss was in multiple locations. I had my own office working out of a very busy, very prominent female medical doctor's office 3 days a week full time. And then the other 2 days I was, bouncing around from location to location in the different gyms that we had that. And that was, 2011 to the end of 2014. At the same time, I was establishing the Wellness Business Hub. I was establishing what is now this, company that serves practitioners and coaches from all over the world, thousands of clients, millions of dollars in revenue. And I was toggling those two things, plus being a single mom raising 2 babies. So I understand
a little bit of things,
just a little bit of things. I deeply, deeply understand what that feels like to really just not know how to manage it all.
Yeah.
And so what we wanted to talk about were some strategies for those of you that either want to maintain clinical practice or get out of clinical practice.
Yep.
So that you don't feel like you're going to die.
Yes. That's important.
That's the constraint.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you, maintain or transition out of clinical practice and grow this like badass online business without feeling like you want to die?
Because let's just be real for a minute here. Like the so-called laptop lifestyle, open up your computer and make your revenue effortlessly online in 30 days or less is not real.
No.
So
it's not a thing. Especially, and I know this doesn't apply to everyone, but especially to those people who have children.
Yeah.
Because, okay, so we're not going to go down the rabbit hole. Let's get into the strategies, because there is a surge of practitioners and coaches who are wanting to get online. And the barrier to entry for that is challenging because you already have a full-time career.
Yeah.
And so the strategy number one that I would say is you have to really set expectations correctly from the start. Yep. Because what most clinicians, practitioners, coaches, therapists, whatever, don't realize is that when you say, how do I transition or maintain to an online program? What you're really doing is you're starting another entirely separate business.
Yep.
And I don't know about you, but I don't know too many people who have multiple wildly successful businesses. Why? Because it's challenging.
Yes. It's very challenging. And it's time intensive.
So that's not to say that it's impossible, because hi, nice to meet you. Been there, done that, got the burnout to prove it. I was going to say got the t-shirt. Kidding. And actually genuinely kidding, because I set my expectations correctly.
Yes.
And so I think there's a misunderstanding of what an online signature program is, especially for those of you that are in clinical practice, because the way that we recommend to set up your online business is actually as a separate entity than your clinical one anyway. And so that is strategy number one, where it's like, okay, you want to have this other thing over here. It's not just a simple program. Nothing is just like, oh, I'm just going to like have an online program.
Yes. Yep. Totally. It's very much not that. And we hear this all the time. Like, I have this going on and it would just be really nice if I could make an additional $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $10,000 a month over here and just have it running in the background and, doing its thing.
Yeah.
And that doesn't actually exist until years and years down the line of running it, if at all.
Right. So number one, adjust expectations accordingly based on your time, energy, and bandwidth. And what I mean by bandwidth is literally like, how much do you have to give? Because if your financial security is coming from your clinical practice, your traditional practice, we can't take our foot off that gas. And so what that means is finding extra time and extra energy and extra focus over and above everything you're already doing to grow this thing over here. And that's bandwidth.
And I'm just going to add to that too. When we say find the time, find the energy, find the bandwidth, we actually mean like put it on your calendar, not just I'll figure it out. I need to somehow grab 10 hours this week to work on this new venture I'm doing, and I'll figure it out as the week goes by, because I promise you it will be Saturday night at 10 o'clock and you will have done almost nothing. And you will feel so discouraged and so disappointed in yourself and like a failure. And you will either stay up until 2 a.m. trying to do things, or just give up entirely, watch Netflix, and go to bed sad.
Yep.
Whereas if you put it on your calendar, even an hour a day, 2 hours a day, an hour and a half here, a 3-hour block here, you will actually do it. And that's huge.
Yeah. Yes. And so that's strategy number 1. And then strategy number 2, I would say, is, and this is something that we talk a lot about with our clinicians and our practitioners in the 10K online success system, is replacement of income.
Yes.
Replacement of income. And this is a lengthy conversation, but to basically, sum it up, it's, do you know the number that you would need to replace in order to feel financially safe having your signature program, whether it's online or offline? What is that number, that take-home number, or the revenue from the clinical practice in and of itself? What is that? Yep. What is that number? I knew what it was for me. And so my rule of thumb, which now gets handed down to all of our clients, is you have to hit that number 3 months in a row. You have to have consistency in order to feel safe to say goodbye to something that you're currently doing that is paying the bills.
Yes. And again, this is like sit down, uncomfortable, like real numbers, real planning, not someday when I make, X amount. It's like, actually, what are the numbers? Like, what is your budget? What does it take to live? Like, how are you comfortably going to exist? And what exact number is that? It's really important.
Yeah. And then the third strategy, which is I think my favorite of them all, is this misunderstanding of how to actually use a signature program in private practice.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
So a signature program is your ticket to freedom. It is your ticket to freedom, whether you're in clinical practice, you're in a one-to-one practice, you have an online business, it doesn't matter. Your signature program, your unique method of how you deliver results is your ticket to freedom. And so if you over here have these one-on-one clients and you're selling sessions and you're operating in a very transactional, old school way that doesn't really work anymore, and then you have this entirely different thing over here, this signature program, and you have these two options, most of the time, the people are going to want to take the one-on-one option.
Yep.
And so the way that we teach it is to incorporate both things into one, where you have one opportunity to work with you.
Yes.
And that is under this umbrella of the signature program. So even with your clinical practice or your traditional practice, when patients or clients come in, there is no option to do anything else.
Nope. This is your methodology, your IP, your proprietary system of getting people results.
Yeah. And the way that you deliver those results is truly transformative, because the signature program is inclusive of accountability, support, community, which typically, traditionally, the one-to-one model is not. That one-to-one model is very transactional. It's you come in, you spend your 30 minutes, you leave, and you don't really hear from the person. Again, it doesn't matter what your designation is. This is true for literally all practitioners. Unfortunately, you don't hear from them again until it's time to rebook the session.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work. And so when you're trying to balance the traditional with the signature program, I would say fuse them together. Fuse them together so that the one-on-one sessions is inclusive of the entire program. You can dramatically increase your pricing.
Yes.
And you can actually show up as that leader in transformation and deliver an over-the-top transformative result because your structure is set up in such a way that it is inclusive of accountability, support, and community, which is what we know people really need right now. No one needs more information. Nobody needs a longer to-do list.
Nope. And I would say also, because you're delivering the same experience, the same step-by-step methodology solution to every single client, it really becomes the absolute best in class, best in world solution and transformation for that person, because repetition matters, right? Practice makes perfect. The more times you do something, the better at it you get. And if you treat every single client as an individual transaction with an individual workflow and an individual basis, you're only ever doing one thing one time. Yeah. Whereas this way, you're doing it over and over and over and over, and you're getting better every time and more confident every time. And you're showing up every time prepared with the answers to the questions that you're going to get asked, and like the best in tips from other clients, and all of this cool stuff that greatly increases client satisfaction.
Yeah. And I know that one of the sort of objections from clinicians or practitioners is, well, my clients need personalized care. They need individualized support. Great. Give it to them. Give it to them in that one-on-one session, for which you can likely do less of because of this methodology, this automated, this pre-recorded step-by-step method that does a lot of the repetition and takes away a lot of that, manual nonsense, that effort of answering those same questions over and over and over again. And you are really enabling those clients to take responsibility for their own transformation with your support. And it actually creates a container for a much deeper relationship with the clients and relationship between clients, which, if we look at what's really going on in the online space when it comes to genuinely successful practitioners and coaches, not just those that have, a lot of Insta followers, but the ones who are genuinely enrolling, 10, 20, 30 clients a month and scaling 6 figures and beyond. When you look at the commonalities between them, these are what the commonalities are. It's that they've been able to create this rapport, this intimacy, this connection with their clients, so that the clients want to stay and repay.
Yes.
And that does not typically happen in this transactional one-to-one model.
Yeah.
And so when you integrate and fuse together these one-on-one sessions with the signature program, and you wrap it up all in a nice bow, and you say, here's the program that is going to suit you best. It's inclusive of these one-on-one sessions, and you get my method, and you get accountability, and you get this, and you get this, and you get this, right?
Yeah.
Then you are able to work with people in your province and state, because you're abiding by your regulations, and you can strip out aspects that then enable you to work with clients outside of your province or state in a very sort of educational self-study way.
Yep. Which is that is such a door opener for most regulated professionals.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it feels so complicated, I think, to anybody working in that capacity currently in like a brick and mortar or clinic setting. And it's one of those, you don't know what you don't know, right? And it's actually not that complicated. It's actually not that confusing. But if you don't know to ask the questions, and if you don't know how to deliver this type of service, it's really hard to picture.
Yeah. And what I would say is, when you integrate that way, you're then not managing one thing over here and another thing over there.
Yeah.
And so everybody gets the same opportunity. And perhaps what would happen then, depending on the severity of the case or the intensity of the case, you could then add in a la carte additional sessions.
Yep.
Right? You could say, you know what, like with this program, you get 6 one-on-one sessions, but I feel like we're going to need to maybe add on 2 more.
Yeah.
So I'm just letting you know that because X, Y, and Z seems to be an issue. And so we'll see how we go, but I'm just sort of putting it out there that you're going to need to add on that. And that is, I think if I had a clinical practice right now, if I was to go back to the beginning, there would be no separation between church and state. There would be no separation between here's my one-on-ones and here's my signature program. It would be, this is what I did. Yeah. Like, this is what I have to offer. And I would have set times for one-on-one client sessions that those people that needed or wanted client sessions, they could book themselves in. But other than that, there is no opportunity to work with me outside of this arena, this container.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's not even in the best interest of the clients anymore to work outside of that container.
So, growth mindset time. Ask yourself the question, how can this work for me?
Yeah. And that's, and we have dental hygienists, we have social workers, we have physiotherapists, we have licensed therapists, we have chiros and NDs and kinesiologists, and like the whole 9 of regulated or licensed professionals operating this way.
Yes.
We've pioneered this model in such a way that it affords you the ability to have mirrored offline, online businesses as separate entities, but still the same, because, some of the work that we do when practitioners and coaches come in is we say, these businesses need to mirror each other. If you want to keep your, like, you help everyone and everyone situation in your clinical practice, cool.
Yep.
But I'm pretty sure you don't want to be running 2 Facebook pages and 2 Instagram pages and 2 this pages and 2 that pages. Right? And maybe you have to, but maybe you don't. And it's worth opening up the conversation to say, and this would be, I think, the 4th strategy is, what's the end goal here?
Yes.
Right? What's the end goal? Do you want to keep them separate? Do you want to transition online? What's that end goal? Because if the end goal is to keep the clinic going, and 4 and 5 are connected, so we'll just sort of go. If the end goal is to keep your clinical traditional practice going and grow that while you also have an online business featuring a signature program that you grow.
Yeah.
If that's the end goal, cool. Strategy number 5 is you're going to have to hire people.
You need help.
You need help. Yesterday.
Yes.
Last week.
So badly.
And only when you have that end goal in mind can you say, okay, so if clinical practice, traditional practice over here, and we want it to grow to this number, and then we go over here and we're like, cool, okay, so we're going to have an online business, and my goal in year 1 is to generate $50,000, then great. But you might need, because you're getting this off the ground, you might need to hire an associate or another professional to come in, or an office manager or something, because there are things for sure that you're doing over here in this arena that you don't need to be doing. And then you can take that bandwidth and bring it over here and really grow your online practice over there. So it just depends on what you want.
Yeah. You have to get clear on that.
And so those would be the strategies. And it's, I feel bad sometimes when we get asked these questions, because I think that the people asking are really looking for, like, oh, just do this one thing. And like, here's your here's your magic pill. Like, here.
Yes.
Ma'am, here. Yes. Right? Like, I think that's what they think is happening, but we're talking about a living, breathing ecosystem of a business that is created to transform lives, not sell socks.
And also, you know, going back to the question, how do you manage it? You know that it's going to be hard while you're starting a new thing and running the current thing. You know that, right? And you have to know that, but you also have to know that the reason you're doing it is so it won't be hard forever. Yeah. And so there's going to be a period of time, like 6 months at the absolute minimum, where it's going to feel like a lot and you're not going to have the bandwidth to take on pretty much anything else.
Yeah.
You will have business A and business B.
And nothing, and no friends, and no family, nothing else. And like, peace out.
But go ahead.
You chose that.
Same.
We really just repeat the same shit day in and day out. Let's just be clear here. It's a choice. Nobody's forcing you. Mm-hmm. Nobody's forcing you to strive for greatness. Nobody's forcing you. And so with the striving comes the challenge, because the challenge is put there to be like, so how badly do you want this again?
Yes.
Right? Like, how badly do you want an extraordinary life? Because you don't just nobody hands you an extraordinary life.
Nope, not how it works.
That's not how it works. And so if you want that, which you should, frankly, you should strive for an extraordinary life, whatever that means to you. Cool. But just know that nothing gets handed to you on a silver platter.
Yep.
Right? I was going to try and make a joke and say, like, unless you're like Kim and Kanye's kids or something. Because I feel like,
I mean, there are people who get things handed to them on a silver platter. But if you're listening to this, it's likely not you.
Anyway, just know that it is 100% possible for you to have whatever it is that you want, whether it's a growing clinical practice with an online business on the side, or to transition out of your clinical practice and grow this massively successful online business. There are plenty of examples we can show you of people who are doing both.
Yep.
Feel free to ask. We'll show you, because the last thing that I would want is for you to be like, I can't do this, which is complete and utter BS, because you can't. You can't. So if you would like some examples, or you would like to chat more about this, just put a comment below and we will see it and we will absolutely chat with you about it, because you can do it. Example. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye guys.